Beyond Emissions Podcast. Welcome to the Beyond Emissions Podcast by Soligent, the largest pure-play solar distributor in the Americas. Hi, I'm Josh Brumm, your host, Energy Storage Manager here at Soligent. Thanks for listening to our podcast, our mission of creating an emissions-free future. Obviously, the why. What does an emissions-free future mean to you? Thanks for joining us, listeners. What does it mean to you? Beyond emissions, and how are we going to get there? And that's the discussion that we have here at the Beyond Emissions by Soligent podcast at the Soligent YouTube channel. Like this video, subscribe, hit the reminder bell, and go in the comments section and tell us what you think about Beyond Emissions. What does it mean to you? The why, right? Start with the why. Simon Sinek, what does it mean to you creating an emissions-free future? For some people, it's economics. Some people, it's environment. Some people, it's both. Some people, it's energy independence and freedom. So many different reasons why Beyond Emissions is a strong driver in our world today. It's so important as well for the environment. Time is of the essence. We're out of balance in our environment with just millions of barrels of carbon, of oil, of coal being burned up into the atmosphere every single day. It took millions of years for all of that carbon to be stored naturally in the earth. And in just a matter of a couple hundred years, being burned and going up into the atmosphere, or less actually, accelerated. And that creates an imbalance. But we've got technologies available today from Soligent. Go to soligent.net to find out more. It's so important that we look for new ways to produce and utilize our energy and find new and clean energy sources that are available at our fingertips today. And we have those options available at Soligent. Welcome to Beyond Emissions YouTube channel, our podcast, episode 4. My guest today from the Soligent team is Luke Johnson. Luke, welcome to the Beyond Emissions podcast.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Likewise, I'm so glad to get to work with you. And, let's start that off. The question I had for the audience, which Beyond Emissions, that's the name of the show. But our mission at Soligent truly is to create an emissions-free future, right? Even our CEO in our meetings that we have on a weekly basis for our team, tells us how much carbon we've taken out of the atmosphere. What a great job we're doing collectively as a team to help create this emissions-free future. So Beyond Emissions is more than just a tagline. It's something that's very personal and means a lot to us and our team here at Soligent. Welcome to the show. Tell our listeners, what does Beyond Emissions mean for you, Luke?
Sure, Josh. I mean, Beyond Emissions, right? You touched on it. Our whole culture here at Soligent is, creating renewable energy opportunities out there and finding ways to create more balance, as you say, in the dynamics of environment and our energy needs. Because let's face it, we're a energy hungry society, right? So. So emissions is really about trying to find the ways to really reduce that. Let's be honest. Solar is a great way to do that. Wind technologies are great ways to do that. Anything that we can do to help create ways that when the emissions are generated, because anything that is created is going to generate some amount of emissions, just really minimalizing that amount of emissions that it takes to create that energy that we all need to really survive. I mean, we can't really survive in many parts of the world without heat and cooling and water, and all of those things require energy of some sort. So just finding ways to really create that balance through, renewable sources for heat, electricity, all of those types of things that we just kind of need as a human species.
Beyond Emissions podcast, Luke Johnson here with us today from Soligent, the largest pure-play solar distributor in the Americas. Like this video, subscribe, hit the reminder bell, and be a part of our ongoing conversation about creating an emissions-free future. Luke, perfectly said, because without this type of effort, we're just going to continue in a world of imbalance, right? I mentioned earlier everything being burned up into the atmosphere. It took millions of years to get deposited into the ground, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the reality is like the resources that we rely on most heavily now, they are finite and they are having an impact on our environment. So it's important that we just recognize that and try to move forward from that, I think, is really the key. It's not, unfortunately, it's not a light switch. We don't have the ability to just say, oh, everything's going to be powered by renewables, but we are, leading the charge and trying to make that a reality.
Right. And with solar, for example, like you can get here at Soligent, Luke Johnson with us today from Soligent, here at the Soligent YouTube channel, Beyond Emissions Podcast. Solar is something that, unlike a barrel of oil, you pull it out of the ground and you refine it and you burn it. Once you use that energy, it's gone forever, right? You can't reuse it again. You have to go pull more oil. You have to pull more oil out of the ground and burn it again, and then pull more out and burn it again. But you only have to create a solar panel and install it once. Just talk about that process. You work with customers and installers in America every single day, helping them with solar and renewable energy solutions. Talk about that process from creating that panel to putting it on the roof and utilizing it. It really does start to work for itself in a closed loop almost, right?
Yeah, and that's the beauty, right? I mean, from one maybe 300 or 400 watt solar panel, under ideal conditions, of course, but if it could get 4 hours of sun every day, you would produce a half a megawatt of energy from that one solar panel. Whereas, to your point, and that would go on for the next 20, 25. I've seen solar panels at some of our installers' facilities that they've set up as small little test things and whatnot. These solar panels are 40 years old and they're still producing, 80% of their rated power. So, we talk about warranties in the business and 20-year warranties on solar panels and things like that. But the reality is the solar panel will produce energy much longer after that. So you're talking about a lifespan of maybe 50, 60, 70 years for a solar panel. And so, you're really looking at something that is going to make a lot of power. I mean, you're talking about megawatts of power over the life of its existence versus, maybe a gallon of gasoline that maybe produces a lot of energy very quickly and is on demand, of course. You can use it in the nighttime or whenever. But once it's gone, it's gone. You have to go get more. There's no more left, so as long as the sun comes up and it will hit my solar panel, then it will continue to produce energy, and that's the great part about it.
Ollie, speaking of Beyond Emissions Podcast, Luke Johnson with us today here on the show. Thanks for joining us, Luke. Speaking of, as long as that sun is shining. Now, we know that the sun is only shining so many hours per day, Granted, you're up in Alaska and you get certain times of the year where it's shining, much more than that. And you get at certain parts of the country, it's shining less. But on average, we have a certain amount of peak sunshine every single day that's available. And so you mentioned 4, maybe somewhere in America, 5, 6 hours, depending on where you're at, or elsewhere in the world where it might be a different peak sunshine hour, but you multiply that by the wattage of your PV array, and that's how many watt hours, or convert that to kilowatt hours every single day that's being produced and available. Now, a lot of people are not home during the day when the sun is shining. They're off working, and so they might not have a lot of loads that are running in their home. That's where energy storage can come in and make a big difference to help folks to recoup all of that energy that's being produced and actually use it throughout the entire day or when they need it. Talk a little bit about that. I know you're working with a lot of customers on energy storage solutions here at Soligent.
Yeah, energy storage is really, I think in reality, energy storage is the best way forward for renewables, right? We talk about wind, we talk about solar, we talk about those types of things, and they are intermittent, right? And that's the difficulty of adoption. So storage is really the key, right? It's kind of the hinge pin that will bring it all together. And the better that we can get at storing energy, the more feasible large-scale solar, wind will even become more so, and even distributed architecture for your residences, right? We're seeing a lot of homeowners opt to add storage to their systems, and for a number of good reasons. Utilities have been kind of pulling back on net metering rates in a lot of areas, and for their own reasons. And to be frank, the best way to combat that is to just use the energy you produce, right? So a lot of solar systems, especially rooftop systems, have been sized such a way that you're absolutely right. They're producing all kinds of power during the day when the homeowner's not using it. And then when they get home in the evening, they need to use power, and now the sun's going down, and they've now moved to the grid power, right, as opposed to their renewable power. And what this does is it causes what they call a duck curve in the utilities, right? And so they go from producing very low amounts of required energy for the demand of the grid to then having to produce a very high amount. It's a very big leap at that point to go from a lot of solar being produced when the sun is out to then the sun going down. So the best way to alleviate that is to add storage to your system, and then you can program these new storage systems almost however you want, right? So if you wanted to run your power all the way until a certain time in the evening, or if you have certain times of the day that you get charged a higher price per kilowatt hour from your utility, you can use your batteries at that time of the day. Or in some cases, maybe you're in a situation where you don't have grid power at all, and you need to size your system to be appropriate for all of your everyday needs, and maybe beyond that, because if the sun doesn't come up for a day, you may be sweating bullets a little bit, right? So, yeah, energy storage is really the key. It's really the key, and the advancements we've seen in battery technology has really allowed that to come to a real mainstream part of the business now.
You mentioned net metering, and I'll tell you, listeners, this is very important, especially if you're in California. Luke just mentioned here on the Beyond Emissions by Soligent podcast about the net metering programs with different utilities in different states. And if you're in California, the net metering 2 situation, your customers were able to get 30 cents a kilowatt hour back for everything they produced in excess throughout the day that they weren't using as a credit, and were able to utilize that at night, for example. And that made it feasible, or a return on investment realistic. But under NEM 3, which was just approved by the CPUC in California, they did not go as far as they wanted to at first. Thank you so much, Calcia, and your storage efforts, and really getting out there and fighting to make sure that the solar rooftop solar tax was not included. That was going to be a doozy there. But the NEM 3 that was passed and approved is a situation where now your customer is only going to get like 3 to 8 cents a kilowatt hour back for what they overproduce during the day and they don't use. That doesn't make a return on investment, feasible without batteries, without energy storage. That's what you're talking about, Luke. Hawaii, for example, got rid of their net metering a long time ago. And I got to talk to a lot of customers out there installing solar in Hawaii, and their solution was energy storage and using inverters like the Solark, for example, available from Luke Johnson on Beyond Emissions podcast here at Soligent. Speak to that. Some of the functionality allows you to use functions in the Solark system paired with the right amount of energy storage to make NEM 3 not a problem, but an opportunity to help customers get that return on investment, plus all the other advantages and benefits of energy storage, limit to home use, self-consumption mode. They've been doing it in Hawaii, and now we've got to look at helping our customers in certain states like California that are getting rid of their original net metering programs. Talk a little bit about that, Luke.
Yeah, look, I think we're going to see that start to come to fruition in a lot of utilities and a lot of markets. The duck curve that I kind of talked about really alludes to that. The reality is that a lot of solar has been, how could I say this nicely, dumb, right? To this point, it's not as interactive as it could be, right? So, yeah, when you talk about a product like a Solark that has I mean, literally all the bells and whistles, right? So everything that you would need for whether you're going to do a straight grid tie system or a grid tie battery backup, or you want to do load shaving, or you want to do peak demand shaving, or if you want to do completely off the grid, you can put a Solarc in. I mean, it's kind of one of those, you could throw that mud ball at any situation and it would stick, because Solarc they've got it figured out. They've got a lot of great software, they've got a lot of great engineers, and they've done a good job of putting together a product. They're not the only ones out there, but there's several of them out there that are great, that are doing good things. Solarc happens to be one of my favorites because as a veteran, I really appreciate a veteran-owned company and what they're trying to do. So I love Solarc. I think it's a great product. I don't actually have Solarc, which I kind of wish I would have, but I went a different route, and Solarc wasn't really a big part of the game when I purchased my equipment. But I really like the Solarc equipment. I really like the Simplify equipment. Schneider makes great equipment. Outback makes great equipment. Soligent, supports all of these manufacturers, and really want, we want our clients to really dig deep with the homeowners and the end users to find out what the best solution is for them, because not every solution is the best solution, right? I mean, Solarc might be really ideal for certain situations, but in another situation, it might not be the perfect scenario, right? So that's kind of the thing that we like to pride ourselves on at Soligent is, diving a little deeper, not just throwing something at you and hoping you'll be happy 5 years down the road. We want to really get into the weeds a little bit and find out if we've got an opportunity to really give you a system that's going to work for what you need it to work for.
Exactly. Luke Johnson with us from Soligent here at the Beyond Emissions podcast. Like, subscribe, hit the reminder bell. Thanks for joining us, Luke. Amazing having this conversation with you. You talked about getting your own system. And by the way, that's exactly correct. What Luke just said. Every single customer's energy storage and energy consumption needs are different, unique, like our DNA. Every single customer has a different need, a different why, if you will. Start with the why. Simon Sinek, start with the why. Why are you getting solar? Why are you getting energy storage? What are you trying to accomplish? And going deeper is what we do. Exactly, Luke.
Right. And it makes it all worthwhile, right? I mean, if you've ever gone out and bought something and you thought it was something that it was going to do something and it didn't do that, you were very disappointed, And when you invest the kind of, capital that you're going to invest in a good solar system, you don't want that to be the case, I got to be honest, I sometimes wish I would have sized my system a little bit bigger, and I don't really need that much, right? I mean, right now we're probably pulling 300 watts in our cabin. It's not a lot. We got some ceiling fans going and, refrigerator and a couple of things. It's not a lot of power, but if it gets cloudy and the sun doesn't come out for a couple of days, the last thing I want to do is have to dump gas in my generator. That's the last thing I want to do. So would I rather invest maybe it's $2,000 to add another battery into my system, but is it worth it to me? It might be worth it to me.
I love that you just said that. Let's go into that further, Luke. Talk about that. You have an off-grid system for your cabin that you designed, installed yourself, and you're utilizing Simplify Power batteries, which they claim, the ability to add on within 2 years. Actually, they allow for adding on even more past that. But realistically, to try not to lose your total 10-year warranty, it's a great warranty from Simplify Power, USA made. You have the ability to scale and add on in 3.8 kilowatt hour increments more safe lithium iron phosphate batteries from Simplify to your existing Simplify system. Talk a little bit about that, because if you wanted to expand with Simplify, you actually can. And again, we're not favoring one over another. We offer all of these different solutions. This is the solution that was right for you, Luke, for your off-grid system. And we do that product comparison to determine exactly which product is right for each customer individually, of course. But for your exact system that you've created that's off-grid, talk a little bit about that. That's amazing. You've got your own off-grid system that you made. I saw and installed. I saw the pictures that you sent over. What a great job. Talk about that with our Beyond Emissions listeners.
Sure. Well, just first off, for anybody that decides to try to go the DIY route, do your homework and be patient with yourself, because there's going to be all kinds of things that you didn't think of. I've been in the solar industry for over a decade, and when I put the pencil and the computer down and picked up my tool belt, I found out that there's all kinds of things that I didn't know about. So be prepared to learn, right? I think that that's probably one of the most important things that you need to know. Secondly, even if you're hiring a contractor, you're doing it yourself, whatever the case may be involved with the process. You got to sit down and you got to do a little bit of homework. You got to kind of do a little bit of self-reflection. And it's kind of like when somebody asks you about your bank account. Like, you don't necessarily want to share all that information, but like your energy usage, believe it or not, sometimes tends to be kind of a personal thing. You said it best. All of our energy uses are different. Why do I use, this space heater all the time? Maybe that's not the best way to use my energy if I'm trying to be more sustainable, right? Or, if I really want to have this type of off-grid type situation. So, a lot of it for me was looking at products that I knew were trusted in the industry, Simplify being one of those. And, I really went back and forth when I started purchasing the products for my system and designing it as, what kind of battery technology I was going to use. Was I going to go with a lead acid or an AGM type product, or if was I going to spend the extra money to go with a lithium product? And I really spent a lot of time on that decision, and I did decide to go with Simplified for a number of reasons. One, they've been around longer than their 10-year warranty, which is an important factor for me. They are great with their customer service. They work well with almost any inverter brand out there that works with a 48-volt, battery bank. And so those were all things, and the modular capability of that product was really appealing to me, because like many folks, I'm on a limited budget. I don't have a endless supply of cash flow, and it was nice for me to, even though I wasn't going to commission them all, or I was going to commission them all at the same time, it allowed me to buy a couple of batteries, put them in the garage, buy a couple more batteries, get them in the garage, and then when I was ready, when I had all 6 of my batteries together, I was ready to go ahead and install my system, install my batteries. And now I've got, 22 kilowatt hours of storage, about, 18 kilowatt hours of usable storage in my battery bank. And, I run it on about a 3.5 kilowatt PV system with a 6 kW Schneider inverter, and their charge controllers. And it's a really fairly basic system. It's nothing that's going to be, shown in the next technological advance magazine by any means, but it does the job, right? And it keeps us happy for about 1.5 days of autonomy here, which is great for like right now. Right now, the last couple of days, it's been a little bit overcast and rainy. So, I'm looking at my batteries and I'm going, I hope I don't have to start my generator, but thankfully the sun pops out every once in a while and gives them a little bit more juice. So we're doing okay right now.
It's a good point that you mentioned there. Luke Johnson with us, Beyond Emissions podcast by Soligent YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, hit the reminder bell. Thanks for being here, Luke. Thanks for listening, folks. It's a great thing that you mentioned there. You kind of weighed and balanced. Should I go lead acid? Should I go lithium iron phosphate? You chose Simplify because of their stand-up warranty. the fact that they've lasted longer than their warranty. But in addition, you're off grid. So there are going to be days where your PV array, solar panels, for those in Rio Linda, your PV array may not produce everything you need to fully recharge the 18 kilowatt hours that's usable. Let's talk about that. If you have to fire your generator up and you chose lead acid, for example, you would have to oversize the lead acid, and because of the inefficiencies of lead acid, you would also have to oversize your PV array to make sure they get fully charged. Because lead acid batteries, if they're not fully recharged to 100% state of charge every cycle, you've got sulfation damage and a shortened life. Plus, you're looking at a charge rate of like C20. So that means literally it takes, for every 100 amps that you pull out, you have to put back 120 amps just to get that 100 amps back into a lead acid battery. Whereas you're a C over 2 or what have you. So you have to literally put back in 102 amps to get your 100 amps back into your lithium iron phosphate battery. And you're able to dump it right in with a very little resistance from your generator, which means that your PV array can be, a little smaller size. And you're able to maximize your charge rate so that your lithium iron phosphate batteries get charged faster than they would with lead acid. And in addition, on those cloudy days, you're able to fire your generator up. How quickly do those simplified batteries fully recharge back up with the generator? You don't have to run and burn as much fuel in that scenario versus lead acid either. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I would love to, Josh, but I've never had to fire the generator, so I don't really know the answer, but I'm sure that it would be fairly quickly, I guess that's the beauty of when you really sit down and you do your homework, right, is that you don't sweat bullets so much. Now, if it was the middle of the summer and we had cloudy days and it was 100 degrees and like super humid outside and you were trying to run your air conditioner or something like that, yeah, maybe you start sweating a little bit. You might plug in a generator, but to be quite frank, like we haven't had a day so far, knock on wood, right? But these lithium batteries are just amazing, right? I mean, the energy in and energy out conversion rate that you talk about it's something that, like, unless you're really one of those guys like us that kind of likes to get into the weeds and nerd out on this kind of stuff, you don't talk about it, right? Your normal homeowner doesn't, like, that's beyond their emissions, right? So those are the types of things that really make sense, and the other thing is, that a lot of people don't think about is these lithium batteries are great. They don't need a ventilated enclosure, right? So that's another thing that a lot of times was a difficult scenario, especially with lead acid batteries, is, they're huge. And, you have to have a segregated cabinet for them. It's got to be ventilated and all of those kinds of things. I mean, you could literally, not that I would recommend it, but you could literally put one of these simplified batteries next to your nightstand and you'd be perfectly safe, right? There's no off-gassing, there's no acid to leak out. There's nothing like that that's gonna be a problem as far as that goes. And the depth of discharge is just so much better with the lithium, right? So for the same 100 amp hours of nameplate rating that you get with lithium, you'll get 30% more output than you would from your lead acid or AGM style batteries, because you really can't take those down to that deep a discharge. Right. You got to stop at like halfway, 50%, before you start damaging the battery. And then every time you do that, of course, then you lower the cycle life. And the same thing is true with lithium, but the difference is instead of going down to where you're 50% battery level, you can go all the way down to like 20% battery level and still have not damaged your battery, right? So you get that extra oomph, I guess.
Yes. And with lead acid batteries, AGM being a lead acid, he mentioned it, it's correct. Lead acid technology, the chemistry in AGM, it's absorbed into like a diaper, an absorbed glass mat. And so it's sealed, maintenance free. You don't have to water it. The electrolyte stays inside the battery, but it's still a lead acid chemistry. So whether it's wet flooded lead acid or AGM absorbed glass mat lead acid, if not kept at a full state of charge all the time, it'll start to sulfate and damage and lose overall capacity. Whereas lithium iron phosphate can actually sit at, not a full state of charge, 70, 80%. Let's say the PV array is not doing full production because it's foggy that day and you only get to 80% state of charge. Granted, that's all the energy you have available, but you have not damaged the battery or shortened the life of the battery. But to be fair to lead acid, right, Luke Johnson with us, Beyond Emissions, there are some applications out there where it makes sense. Maybe the upfront budget of the customer can't afford the lithium iron phosphate investment. And so, or maybe they are okay with oversizing their PV array to ensure that lead acid battery bank and oversizing the battery bank to ensure that it's at a full state of charge at all times. And they only need it for certain functionality. There are certain circumstances where it makes sense to go with lead acid. And in addition, lead acid batteries, I didn't know this until about a year ago. It blew my mind. Are the most recycled products on planet Earth, more than aluminum cans, more than cardboard, more than plastic. The most recycled products on planet Earth are lead acid batteries. 99, 98%, somewhere around there, of all lead acid batteries, AGM or wet flooded, are recycled back into a brand new battery. So for lots of reasons, you might need a lead acid battery option. And we offer those as well here at Soligent. Like, it really is dependent upon what the customer needs, right? Luke, talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit on a key point. I mean, budget is not something that you can just overlook. Budget's definitely something that's important for, pretty much everybody out there. So, trying to find something that works within their budget is definitely key. And yeah, if you can work with a lead acid chemistry, then there's nothing wrong with that. There's thousands upon thousands of installs that have been done with lead acid batteries over the years before lithium became a, big thing, and they're working just fine. Right? You have to be prepared to know that there's going to be possibly some maintenance involved. It, may require some different installation practices, things like that. There are some benefits, aside from just cost, though. I mean, one of the things that lithium struggles with is very cold conditions. So if you're in a climate where it gets really cold a lot of the time and you don't have an indoor place, so conditioned space to store your batteries, then yeah, a lead acid option might be the best solution for you, because lithium, quite frankly, may fail in those conditions or have an extreme degradation in those conditions. So, there are definitely situations where maybe somebody's in the northern mountains of Montana, right? And they're subjected to below zero temperatures every single winter, and they don't have but maybe a shed that's not really warm, and they're in the wintertime. That might be a situation where lead acid battery is going to be much better performing product than a lithium. Yeah.
And if you're grid tied and you're looking for that return on investment and longevity and the ability to use X amount of kilowatt hours, say in California under NEM 3, where you're not getting that return on investment doing solar only, so you have to have energy storage. For most residential customers, lithium iron phosphate is going to be one of the best solutions because of its resilience, its amazing efficiency versus lead acid, for example, the ability to fast charge multiple cycles within a day without shortening the life of the battery. And you mentioned earlier 18 kilowatt hours of total storage, usable storage, but 22 kilowatt hours of total storage in your personal system that you have, although it's off grid. But the example is that we need to look at properly sizing that lithium iron phosphate battery at 80% depth of discharge, or basically taking the total amount of energy storage that needs to be used in a day, either energy consumption or offset, to recoup and get that energy back instead of selling at a loss to the utility under NEM 3 and getting that return on investment. You need to be able to use that energy. You need to oversize your energy storage bank about 20% larger than your daily energy use or your daily consumption, folks, so that you can maximize your life cycles at 100% depth of discharge, using everything in the battery. In other words, not oversizing for DOD. And just taking, you need 10 kilowatt hours of, usage. Here's a 10 kilowatt hour battery, 100% depth of discharge. That battery will be at about 70% of the available capacity of it in like 8 years. Whereas if you size it 20% larger than your daily usage or consumption, that battery will be at, say, 70-80% of the remaining capacity available in 18 years. I mean, that's a big difference, literally doubling the usable energy available to the customer just by sizing the battery correctly. You deal with this all the time, don't you, Luke?
Yeah, and it often is a balance, right? I mean, sizing it correctly is ideal. That's the best possible solution. What we find oftentimes is people get complacent about their energy usage, and they don't realize what they're going to add later on down the road either, right? So adding that 20% oftentimes gets even, overtaken over time, right? Because, everything we pick up nowadays has got a new electronic device to it, or a new USB plug you plug in, and it all takes some power, right? Maybe it's not a lot, but, or is there something in your future as far as maybe an EV? Is that something that you're going to be looking to charge? And, to put that in perspective, EVs with 40 to 60 kilowatt hour battery banks in them, if you're going to charge that battery as well, is that something that you want to put into your future endeavors? And is that something that you need to calculate into your entire system? Definitely, oversizing for your needs is really the only way you're probably going to be happy with your system. I can tell you from experience that, a good friend of mine, when I was out shopping for a tractor, for example, he said, go buy the biggest tractor you can haul. Buy the biggest one you can get. Because trust me, once you have the tractor, you're going to realize how valuable it is, and you're going to be using it for so many more things. And he was absolutely right. I ended up buying one size larger than I was originally going to buy, and now I wish I would have bought one that was 2 sizes larger, right? And your solar and energy needs is very similar in a lot of ways. You think, my energy bill at the end of the month says I use 1,000 kilowatt hours or 1,200 kilowatt hours. So that's probably, we'll just divide that out, and that's probably all we'll need. No big deal, right? But the reality is you really should look beyond that. How do I get there? And what are those inefficiencies? What are the depths of discharge? What am I going to actually get? If I actually need 1,200 kilowatt hours, you may actually have to produce 1,500 or 1,600 kilowatt hours to get to harvest that by the time, it might be cloudy, you might have some dirt on your solar panels, there's wire inefficiencies, everything has a little bit of efficiencies, so every little piece of equipment that it has to go through, you're going to lose just a little bit of that. It might be 2% in one spot, it might be 4% in one spot, but you're going to start losing a little degradation as time goes on. And all the while, bear in mind what I said, you're probably going to add more electrical devices to your repertoire as you go down the line, And while a lot of newer products are more energy efficient, I just find that we're constantly electrifying everything, right? Electric stovetop burners, electric water heaters, electric heating. Everybody's got a microwave. Chef Mike, he's got to have his 1,000 watts, So, there's a lot of things that come into play, and I think that it's definitely something that you have to put into the equation.
Yeah, and the great thing is here at Soligent, we're not one size fits all. We're about figuring out exactly what's right for you and your customers. And the fact is we have so many different options to choose from to match you up with the right solution. Great brands, right, Luke?
Oh yeah, we got all the best brands in the business. You talked about SolarEdge Solar, but SolarEdge, now we've got their batteries online. Enphase has their batteries online. We're selling those all day, every day. I mentioned earlier about Outback and Schneider, some of the old school, pillars of the off-grid community that we still offer those products. Magnum, The list goes on and on, really. We just fired up, Simplify, now part of Big Briggs and Stratton, their inverters coming online to pair with their batteries as well as any other 48-volt option that's out there. We talked about Simplify batteries, but we also carry Fortress, and we have access to Discover, and we've got, oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. I feel like we've got stores and hummus available to us now, and it's just it's amazing to me that this segment of the business has grown what it has over the last maybe 10 years. It's just a really, really amazing thing, and we're just happy to be a part of it, really. We like to be able to, to your point, have very wide depth and breadth of product solutions so that we can focus in on what's going to make your system your system.
And unlike a lot of other distributors, the lead times and stock levels are actually sufficient, right? Like if it's a lead time, our relationship with different manufacturers can get it there usually within a week or two, or we probably have it in stock and available for quick shipping, right? That's something that most installers that are listening to our podcast, they deal with, is lead times. It drives them crazy. But with Soligent, sure, we have sufficient stock, don't we, and availability?
Yeah, we keep a lot of these products on stock. Some are procured to order, of course, and but the reality is we could put together an off-grid system in stock today. We could put together a load shaving or a peak demand avoidance type system today, right out of our inventory, no problem.
That's something most distributors can't do, and it makes me so proud to work here at Soligent. I apologize. We're coming up on a hard break. Luke Johnson with us from Soligent. Luke, amazing talking with you today, and, we really are making a difference, creating this world that is beyond emissions. I really appreciate you being here today. For our listeners, especially those who are listening in the solar and installer business, and they'd like to partner with Soligent on getting these customized solutions in the hands of their customers, especially out here in the West Coast and all over the country. You're working everywhere. Tell our listeners how they can contact you, Luke.
Sure. I'm here with Soligent. You can get to me via email, which is Luke, Luke, .Johnson, JOHNSON, @soligent.net. Or you can reach me right on my mobile device here. It's 720-215-6123. We're happy to help in any way we can.
Luke Johnson from Soligent, Beyond Emissions. A star today on the show, man. You've really educated us. Thank you for being here. Hang on the line for our engineer, Luke.
Thanks.
Right on. Luke Johnson, Beyond Emissions podcast by Soligent, our special guest. Just around the corner, Luke mentioned Enphase, energy storage solutions available here at Soligent. Tony Vernetti, we have a special guest from Enphase Energy coming up next. So stay right where you're at. It's going to be a great continuation of our awesome podcast so far. Thanks, Luke Johnson, for joining us, and Tony on the way from Enphase right here. Beyond Emissions podcast by Soligent, the largest pure-play solar distributor in the Americas. Be right back.
We at Soligent are incredibly excited to announce our partnership with Give Power. Well, we wouldn't be here today talking to you about Give Power if it wasn't for our partners, LoanPal. They've been with Give Power since the beginning. Their contribution has given water and light to countless people across the globe. We are truly inspired by LoanPal's dedication to the cause. Something LoanPal said really strikes a chord regarding Give Power, that this is something that's more than money. It's what makes making money more worthwhile. In a lot of ways, that's synonymous with what we're doing here at Soligent.
Here's how you can help.
What we've decided to do is compound LoanPal's contribution by donating to Give Power on every order paid via our direct pay program through LoanPal. That's right. Every time your company uses your LoanPal portal to pay Soligent for material, 5 people get clean drinking water for a full year.
Together we're stronger.
Together, we can choose to be extraordinary by giving to people who live outside our reach. To us, this means a lot.
Soligent's purpose meets Give Power's mission. Join the impact. Soligent, Solar Engine. SolarEngineSolutions.com. Go there to find out more. Welcome back, Beyond Emissions Podcast. I'm Josh Brumm, your host, Energy Storage Manager here at Soligent, the largest pure-play solar distributor in the Americas. Please like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. We really appreciate you joining us. It's not just about making the dollars. Yes, we all want to share in the benefits of this awesome green economy and grow in this green economy. Absolutely. But it's about more than that even. It's about creating this emissions-free future. Beyond Emissions. Welcome to the Beyond Emissions podcast by Soligent. Again, like this video, subscribe, and hit the reminder bell so you can be a part of our ongoing conversation, creating a world that is beyond emissions. Okay, Luke Johnson was on with us, and as he ended the call there before the break, Luke, he mentioned Enphase as one of the awesome options we have available here at Soligent. And what a perfect segue, Luke. Way to go. We actually have a special guest right now, all the way from California. Tony Vernetti from Enphase Energy is with us here at Beyond Emissions. Tony, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Josh, and thanks for inviting me to speak. I appreciate it.
Oh, likewise. And who doesn't know Enphase, right? What rock are you living under if you haven't heard of Enphase? But, I got to tell you, even though you're well known and famous already because of your awesome brand recognition, I do want to let everyone know that Enphase is more than the amazing microinverter solutions that you've created over the years. You're now delving into some amazing energy storage solutions. But before we get to that, Tony Vernetti with us from Enphase Energy here at the Beyond Emissions podcast. Like and subscribe, hit the reminder bell. Thanks for joining us here at the Soligent YouTube channel, folks. Tony, before we get into that, let our listeners know. I always ask our guests as they come on the Beyond Emissions podcast, Beyond Emissions, it means something different to everyone. For some people, it's environment, some people economic, both, maybe a combination of thereof. In your heart, what does Beyond Emissions mean to you?
Well, Josh, that's an interesting question. And I was thinking about it right before the call here. And what I kind of started thinking about is how when we, just in general as a society, started using fossil fuels decades and decades ago, and over 100 years ago, emissions weren't even ever part of the conversation, right? You probably wouldn't want to run your vehicle inside a building because, tailpipe emissions would kill you. But otherwise, things like greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide, monoxide emissions just wasn't even on the radar because we just didn't even have a comprehension of the long-term impact of all those emissions. Now, of course, things have changed. We have an understanding that the emissions produced by burning fossil fuels for power plants, for vehicles, are extremely harmful. And the good news is that there's a very good reason to be hopeful. Because we don't need to produce the emissions that we do in order to live comfortably. There are so many alternatives. Of course, we're talking about renewable energy, solar, other potential sources of renewable energy, and storing that energy in batteries, and using energy in a different way as well. So using electric appliances as an alternative to fossil fueled appliances, whether it's your furnace or your cooktop or what have you. There's so many solutions that have come out recently and so many more coming out in the next coming decades that are, solutions powered by electricity for various purposes that are really superior than what we've been accustomed to with fossil fuels. So I think as people become more knowledgeable about these things like electric vehicles and heat pumps for your home that run on electricity, that's going to create sort of a snowball effect. And looking forward to seeing that happen over the next decade or so.
And I'm so excited that we at Soligent and you, our listeners and partners and installers in our network, are partnered with us and have access to Enphase and your solutions here at Soligent. It's beautiful. I talk to our customers and our teammates every day. We have stock of Enphase solutions, energy storage solutions, in addition to your traditional conventional solutions for solar. Now, that was great, just having some very efficient microinverters on a home here in California, for example, is where I live. And NEM 3 just came into existence with the CPUC voting down the old NEM 2 and creating a new scenario where that return on investment, if you're solar only, or if you're a solar only installer listening to us right now, your business model is in jeopardy because the return on investment, your customer's not going to get 30 cents a kilowatt hour anymore. They're going to get 3 cents if you're solar only. But energy storage can turn NEM 3 from a problem into a supercharged opportunity to help the customer get that return on investment, have energy independence during an outage, and also as well actually help our installer customers grow their business. It's actually a great opportunity in a sense for everyone involved as it pertains to energy storage. Enphase and Soligent partnered. You're on the cusp of really some great revolutions here at Enphase in offering these solutions, especially what perfect timing. The solutions available from Enphase through Soligent for our NEM 3 California installer customers that are listening right now. Talk a little bit about that. Why is energy storage so important? And through Soligent, what Enphase energy storage solutions should they be looking at?
So it's best to just talk a couple of minutes, I think, to lay the groundwork for why batteries are important today. A few years ago, we had net energy metering 1.0 and then 2.0 in California. And basically, with the original net metering, the utility was kind of like the battery if you didn't have a battery in your home, because all the energy that you fed back to the utility from your solar system, you would get credit for it at the same price that you pay. That's the key right there, is getting retail value and credit. Now, with NEM 3.0 that was just approved recently, that is going to change significantly, because if you feed, you get a very small amount of credit. It's only about 25% of the retail value. So that really dramatically changes the whole equation and payback calculations that you would normally use with solar previously anyways. And obviously that is going to make it, you're going to have to change the strategy when it comes to your home energy system. So the reason why batteries are so important now is because with a battery installed and connected to your solar system, you can store the energy that's the excess energy that your system is producing that your home is not using at that moment. Store that energy in the battery on site locally, and then you can use that energy from the battery at any time. And there's a number of different settings with the Enphase system for different types of applications. But in a nutshell, with NEM 3.0, you want to use the energy in your battery instead of paying high price of electricity from the utility.
Right. These rate increases are coming.
Now let me talk, or I should say yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a video the other day from the president of PG&E talking about the investment they're making to take all their power lines and put them underground, which I think is long overdue, especially with the outages that we have just because there's a fire or a tree falls on a line and the next thing you know, a whole part of the grid is shut down. They should be brought underground. But that is a gigantic investment, and that money to do that is not going to just fall from the sky. It's going to come from ratepayers, right?
Yep, absolutely. In California, utilities are regulated, but they basically have a monopoly, and they're guaranteed 10% return on investment from their investment. So PG&E, while this sounds like an expensive prospect for them, everything that they spend on the utility grid, they're allowed to increase utility rates for ratepayers. So ultimately, they get paid for all the work that they did, plus a 10% profit. It really comes down to the ratepayers bearing the brunt of all those bills. So with solar and battery storage, you can protect yourself or insulate yourself from future energy rate increases from the utility.
Now, what Enphase solutions available at Soligent? By the way, we have this in stock in California. NEM 3 installers in California, listen up. In stock, contact us via the link below in the description, and we can connect you with an Enphase energy storage and energy system solution. Talk a little bit about the Enphase solutions to help people take advantage of turning NEM 3 into an opportunity instead of it being a problem.
Right. So the Enphase solution we call the Enphase Energy System. We have worked hard over the past several years to develop a complete home energy management system that goes way beyond just having a solar system on your roof. And the other key components of the energy management system are a battery. Our model is called the IQ battery. It comes in 2 different sizes for a lot of flexibility in sizing the system, specifically for that homeowner. You need a switch to disconnect you from the utility automatically. Ours is called the IQ system controller. So if there is a power outage, click, it instantly disconnects you from the grid and then allows your home to be powered by the solar system and the battery. The third component is a load controller. So when you are connected to the utility, you don't really worry about what you're running in your home because the utility can handle your electric dryer, your electric oven, and a battery. You have to be aware of the relatively limited amount of power that you're going to have from the battery. Again, it's fundamentally different from the grid. And you want to be able to control which appliances in your home receive power so you can prevent unexpected overloads of your system and just have a more reliable and better experience overall. This is worth mentioning at this moment as well. So in 2023 and 2024, Enphase is going to be developing a line of networked electric vehicle chargers that are truly integrated into the Enphase energy system, and that's going to allow features like charging your vehicle with green electrons. It's only charging your vehicle with excess solar power instead of charging from the utility grid. And down the road, eventually allowing the electric vehicle in your home to be an additional power source connected to your energy management system. So the abbreviation for that concept is called V2H, or vehicle to home. And if you think about it, most people drive their car to and from work. Most of the time their car is just sitting in their garage, and it has a huge battery, especially compared to most home batteries. So if you've got a full battery in your car and there's a power outage, think about how nice it would be to tap into that huge storage capacity that's sitting in your garage unused to power your home to get you through that power outage. So again, that's not something that we have today, but it's something we're working hard on, and we're going to have that probably in 2024.
Wow, that's amazing. Really thinking about Enphase energy solutions available right here at Soligent. Tony Vernetti on the Beyond Emissions by Soligent podcast. Like, subscribe, hit the reminder bell, folks. What an amazing conversation. This is how we're going to get beyond emissions. By utilizing systems available through Soligent like Enphase, like Tony's talking about, where you're not just thinking about it as one piece, but almost like you have a hand and a foot and an eye and an ear. They all serve different purposes, but they're part of the same body. So you're treating it like one big body or one big system where everything works together, right?
Exactly right. And when we talk about the advantages of Enphase compared to perhaps some of our competitors, one of the advantages with Enphase is that we have developed a complete ecosystem of products that are all designed from the ground up to work together. And that's different than how most other systems on the market work. Most other systems, you have your inverter from one company, the battery will be from a different company, and the monitoring potentially could be even a different company. So basically they're kind of hodgepodge, duct taped together for a complete system. With Enphase, we have our microinverters, which are the inverters connected to the solar panels that we've been producing since 2008. Our batteries can be retrofitted to all those Enphase systems, or I should say the majority. There are some models where we can't, but the majority of people that own Enphase systems already for their solar array can easily add on the battery backup system as well.
If they do that, Tony, and it's an existing Enphase microinverter system, and they want to come in and add an Enphase energy storage system to it, they're able to do that, obviously, but how does that affect, for example, these are existing systems that are under NEM 2 and not necessarily under the NEM 3 requirements right now. They're under the NEM 2 scenario where they're going to still be grandfathered in. Does that change their NEM 2 status, or do they get to keep that status?
That's a great question, Josh. I don't want to say the wrong thing because I'm not completely up to date on all the ins and outs of NEM 3, but I thought that there was an agreement that adding storage would not change your NEM status. But
because
really
you're doing it on the AC side, right? Basically, because you're adding that storage and you're sending that in. It's basically an AC coupled system if they've got an existing system, right?
Right. It is an AC coupled system. And yeah, to my knowledge, that's not going to change your NEM status. One thing that people should be aware of, though, is that typically adding significant capacity to your solar system, the utilities want to change your NEM status. Under NEM 2.0, if you added more than 1 kilowatt, which is really not very much, it's only about 3 solar panels. If you added more than 3 solar panels or 1 kilowatt, the utility would make you change to the current NEM, and that is not what homeowners want to do. What you want to do is install the right size system today so that you can be grandfathered in to NEM 2.0 for 20 years. If you wait until after NEM 3.0 comes around, then you are going to be kind of in a bind there.
Right. And then energy storage is the only way to make that a real opportunity. And it's through kind of that self-consumption mode almost, right? That ability to consume all your energy yourself. And in doing so, do you think that at the end of the day, that's almost like not having to participate in them at all, in a sense, that energy independence that provides? Your return on investment is still going to be there. Basically, it's like an HSA in medical. Instead of just pouring it down the black hole and through the process of the insurance company, you're paying it to yourself. Or it's like owning a home instead of renting. Every time when you're renting a home, you're just paying that rental property owner and for the right to live there, but you're getting nothing for it. As soon as you're not paying rent anymore, you have to move. And if you're just renting your power, you're doing virtually the same thing. It's going down a black hole, or you're running it through the insurance company, or you're running it through some sort as a metaphor, right? You're running it through the utilities NEM program. Well, what if you just produce that energy and you consume it yourself? That's the ultimate return on investment, and you're paying it to yourself, right? Instead of that black hole or through that convoluted process. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on a phrase that I wanted to repeat here, which is self-consumption. So self-consumption is one of the modes that you can set the battery to operate in, and that's the best mode for the new version of NEM, where you get a small amount of credit for the energy. The utility with NEM 3.0 is basically saying, look, we're not going to provide you, we're not going to credit you at what that electricity is really worth to you. Or I should say worth on the market. They're going to drastically reduce that. So, they're not going to help you out with saving money with solar as much as they used to. So, therefore, we want to save that energy in our battery and self-consume the energy. Basically what you just described there, Josh. So with self-consumption, essentially you charge the battery up whenever there's excess solar power, and then whenever your home is demanding more power than the solar can provide, the battery kicks in and provides the difference. And if you do, for whatever reason, consume more power than even the solar and the battery can provide, then you'll get a little bit extra from the utility to make up the difference. But the idea is to just minimize energy consumption from the utility at the high prices that we have today, and maximize the use of renewable energy, either straight from your solar panels or from solar plus the renewable energy stored inside your battery.
That's awesome. And Enphase energy storage solutions, power solutions, available right here at Soligent. We've been partnered with Soligent and Enphase. We've been partners for quite a long time. And our customers know the benefits of using Enphase. Your company has been in existence for quite a while as well, offering these solutions. Everybody knows about Enphase for a reason. Just like I know about some of the greatest brands in the world. Nobody says cotton swabs, they say Q-tips. When you think of microinverters, you think of Enphase. You must be so proud to work for a great company there at Enphase, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. I first heard of Enphase the first year that they were released on the market back in 2008. And I'll tell you a little story about a conversation that I had with an old-time solar professional in San Diego. Who had been installing string inverter systems for probably 20 years. And he talked to me about these microinverters this little company called Enphase was making, again, way back in 2008. And he said, these things are incredible. You can see individual panel production, which was not a possibility back then, with simple string inverters. You can see what each solar panel in the system is doing. And the systems would actually wake up and start producing power earlier in the morning than string inverters would, because they had a lower voltage requirement to turn on, and they would work a little bit longer throughout the day. And the third kind of mind-blowing benefit at that time was that if there was some shade on the solar array, perhaps a telephone pole was casting a shadow on the roof, it would only affect the panels that were directly shaded, whereas conventional string inverters at the time, a little bit of shade on part of the array would really dramatically drop down the overall power output of the whole system. So, there were multiple kind of groundbreaking features and really clear and easy to understand benefits for the installer and for homeowners that really helped launch Enphase back in 2008. And it's just been a steady ramp up over time in terms of just gaining market share and producing even higher quality, more reliable products over the years. Today, Enphase is known for probably having the most reliable inverter system on the market. Because our inverters are underneath the solar panels, they're built to kind of a quality or durability standard that, to my knowledge, nobody else is using. Perhaps maybe some smaller microinverter companies are trying to nip at our heels, but our inverters have an extremely low failure rate compared to typical string inverters on the market. And customers and installers really appreciate that reliability, because once that system is up on the roof, you really want to set it up and forget about it, not have to do constant maintenance to it.
Right.
With microinverter system, there's very little to do with the system.
And the efficiency of Enphase is amazing. I've got a grid tie system at my house with a Fronius. It's a 7.6 kW array. I go out there, I look at the actual production on a beautiful sunny day, and it's like maybe 6 kW or less. And it's just amazing the efficiency difference between a string inverter and a microinverter from Enphase. Wow. It blows my mind, because I've got some friends. I installed mine early on, but I've got some friends who have the Enphase systems, and they show me the difference. They've got similar sized PV array as I do, and I'm like, wow, that is a huge difference. If I knew about it at the time that I got my PV array early on, I would have chosen Enphase microinverters. And now that you have the energy storage solution, I mean, it's amazing. I watched a video the other day. Tony Vernetti with us from Enphase, partnered here with Soligent, Beyond Emissions YouTube channel podcast here at the broadcast today. Like, subscribe, hit the reminder bell. I saw the video, and it's amazing. You actually have the microinverters in each of the batteries. What are those 3.6 kW kilowatt hour increments for the Enphase batteries? And three of them together make like an ensemble. Really, they're tied together, and the ensemble's like a cover that makes it look real nice and beautiful as well. And so you can really get scalable for the amount of energy storage you need in those 3.6 kilowatt hour increments. And talk a little bit about that theater of the mind. It's almost like cartridges that go down into each of the batteries, which are individual microinverters from Enphase. There's advantages to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, let me review the components real quick here. We have two battery sizes, the IQ Battery 3, which is 3.3 kilowatt hours, and then the IQ Battery 10, which is 10 kilowatt hours. That's the storage capacity, kind of like the size of the fuel tank in a sense. The IQ Battery 10 is actually 3 of the IQ Battery 3s connected to each other with one big cover. One big cover over all the 3 to make it look like one big battery. And as you mentioned, Josh, our batteries also use microinverters. So the IQ Battery 3 has 4 of our microinverters built into it, and the 10 would have 12 microinverters. Now, there are a few advantages. One is the reliability advantage that I mentioned earlier, because our failure rate of our microinverters is so extremely low, especially compared to conventional string inverters or the types of inverters used in other batteries. The other advantage is that if there is in the rare chance, or the rare occurrence of a failure of one of the inverters, it doesn't take the whole system out of commission. Imagine an AC battery with a built-in inverter. If that inverter fails, the whole battery is out of commission, and it can't be fixed on site. That 400-pound battery would have to be shipped back to the company for repair or replacement. With Enphase, if one of the microinverters fails, within about 2 or 3 minutes, the installer can remove that microinverter, pop in a new one, and with the software used on a smartphone or a tablet, can set up that inverter to start working again. So it's a very easy replacement to do. It's done on site. And as I said, if one of the inverters is out, the system still works. It just has a reduced level of power output compared to if all microinverters were working. So a few benefits there. Obviously, for the homeowner, they're not going to have downtime of their system. For the installer, they're not going to get that phone call from their homeowner that's an emergency call saying, hey, my whole system is down. I need you to come out here immediately to help me out. With Enphase, it doesn't create that emergency situation because the system will still work, just with slightly reduced power until that
if you even need to get that repaired, because like you said, you don't have a very big failure rate, which is something you get to think about when you choose Enphase. So, it's you pack a parachute, but you'll probably never need to use it because you guys are amazing. How about backing up the loads in the home, or powering the loads in the home? Are your installers having to create a sub panel, a critical loads panel, to determine which loads are backed up? I know you have the load shedding center or load management center, and that's awesome. But as far as because you're creating AC power right there at the battery, right? So does that need to go to a critical loads panel with loads that the homeowner needs to choose in conjunction with their installer of what they want to power? Or does that just go to the whole entire home panel, the whole electrical panel?
Yeah. Well, our system is designed to be very customizable for many different scenarios. If a customer wants to back up their entire home, all of the electrical loads in their main panel, then they would simply have to buy the right size battery to be able to power all the things they want to run at the same time and have enough energy capacity to last long enough. Not everybody wants to buy a 30 or 40 kilowatt hour battery for $60,000. Some homeowners really just want to back up their bare essentials and perhaps spend, just they have a budget for their battery, let's put it that way. And they want to just back up their essentials like the refrigerator, keep their computers running and their TV on so they can watch TV during a blackout. Running a few loads like that you can do with a smaller battery. But the wise thing to do in terms of design is to move those critical loads out of the main panel and into a backup load sub-panel like you mentioned, Josh. So just when there's a power outage, you have power just to those critical loads that are in that extra sub-panel, but the other loads that remain in your main service panel, like your pool pump or your electric oven, things that are not essential wouldn't have power.
Awesome.
The answer is really you can do both. Whatever the homeowner prioritizes, whether it's their whole home or just a few loads, the system can be customized specifically for those needs.
Enphase is all about customization, is what you're saying. That's amazing. That is amazing. Available here at Soligent, folks. Tony Vernetti, thank you so much, from Enphase, joining us here on the Beyond Emissions podcast. We talked about why, what is beyond the why behind it all. I love Simon Sinek, start with the why. The why behind it all, which is beyond emissions, creating an emissions-free future. And what does that mean to you? And thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on that. And then this whole discussion really has been, you're welcome, the solutions from Enphase available in stock now at Soligent. Folks, click on the link below, become a dealer here at Soligent, and offer Enphase solutions to your customers today. That's the how we're going to do it part, right? That's how are we going to get to this world that is beyond emissions. And it's what you and your partners here at Soligent and my teammates and your teammates at Enphase are doing, and our Enphase installers and Soligent distributors and dealers out there are doing every single day, empowering our customers to help us create this world, right, that is beyond emissions, Tony? Yeah,
that's right. It's going to take involvement from everybody. from manufacturers to homeowners and business owners investing in the solutions, to policymakers, politicians, and business owners. Like, everyone needs to kind of march in the same direction to make this a reality, this renewable energy future a reality.
Well, we're going to do it.
It's nice to hear that Soligent, we've, like you said, we've had a great partnership with Soligent, and it's wonderful for us to work with really good, reliable partners for distribution that really have the best interests of installers and homeowners in mind along every step of the way. And I know Soligent values training and education as well. You've got one of the most knowledgeable teams that I've worked with out there, and we do constant training with you guys to make sure that you're up on all the details about our products so you can offer the best solutions to your customers.
Oh, I love that you mentioned that. Tony Vernetti from Enphase, you've got some teammates that will work with us here at Soligent to even offer and provide trainings for some of our customers that are listening right now. Just your support as well. We want to thank you at Enphase for doing such an awesome job and helping to educate us to empower our customers out there. Thank you, Tony. Tony, thanks so much for being on the Beyond Emissions podcast today here at the Soligent YouTube channel. Thanks for being our partner at Enphase. We appreciate you so much. I've got to go, but can you please let our listeners know how they can contact you, or what's the best way to get in touch with somebody from Enphase? Obviously, join us here at Soligent. We can get you Enphase products and solutions today. We have them in stock. They are available at Soligent. Click the link below. But to research Enphase, to learn more, to find out more, let our listeners know where they can go.
I think the best thing for a homeowner to do if they're looking into solar and they'd like an Enphase quote is to go to our website. Of course, everybody says that. Our website is designed to be easy to use for homeowners and installers, different types of people that need information. So go to our website, enphase.com, and at the top you'll see homeowners. Just click on homeowners, and then you'll see another link there with a guy with a little hard hat that says find an installer. And this will take you to a page where you basically put in your zip code, and you'll get information about installers that are certified by Enphase, that are trained up on how to properly design and install our products right there. So it's a great way to find good qualified Enphase installers right nearby. And as usual with any home improvements, it's a good idea to get quotes from a couple of different companies, even if it's just if you're really set on Enphase, get quotes from, say, 2 or 3 different Enphase companies so that you're comfortable with the solution and the price. And yeah, that's the best approach.
Yes, and if you're an installer that's listening to the Beyond Emissions podcast, partnered with Soligent, obviously we're able to provide you with the Enphase solutions where they're in stock, available here from Soligent. But if you want to be a certified Enphase installer, get on that list. So when folks go to the Enphase site and a homeowner types in their zip code, your business will show up. That makes sense. You need to get on that list to be a certified installer with Enphase so that you can show up in that search result for the homeowner as well. Just a little tip from us here at Soligent. Thanks for joining us today, Tony from Enphase. I appreciate you coming on the Beyond Emissions podcast, sir.
You're welcome, Josh. Happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Hang on the line for engineers, and I'll be right back. Thanks so much for joining us today for another Beyond Emissions podcast, our mission of creating an emissions-free future. The why, obviously, environment, economic independence, security, so many reasons why solar plus energy storage makes sense in helping us create this world that is beyond emissions, but also as well, how are we going to do it? Well, Luke Johnson from Soligent on the program today talking about energy storage solutions, solar solutions, Enphase microinverters plus energy storage solutions from Enphase, available all from your partners here at Soligent. or the how are we going to do it part. And that's what our discussion is, having experts from around the world to help educate us on how we're going to go about creating this world that is beyond emissions. Thanks for joining us. The Beyond Emissions podcast by Soligent. Here at the Soligent YouTube channel, like, subscribe, hit the reminder bell. Soligent, the largest pure-play solar distributor in the Americas. Thanks for joining us for the Beyond Emissions podcast.
We at Soligent are incredibly excited to announce our partnership with Give Power. Well, we wouldn't be here today talking to you about Give Power if it wasn't for our partners, LoanPal. They've been with Give Power since the beginning. Their contribution has given water and light to countless people across the globe. We are truly inspired by LoanPal's dedication to the cause. Something LoanPal said really strikes a chord regarding Give Power, that this is something that's more than money. It's what makes making money more worthwhile. In a lot of ways, that's synonymous with what we're doing here at Soligent.
Here's how you can help.
What we've decided to do is compound LoanPal's contribution by donating to Give Power on every order paid via our direct pay program through LoanPal. That's right. Every time your company uses your LoanPal portal to pay Soligent for material, 5 people get clean drinking water for a full year.
Together we're stronger.
Together, we can choose to be extraordinary by giving to people who live outside our reach. To us, this means a lot more.
Soligent's purpose meets Give Power's mission. Join the impact. Soligent, Solar Engine. SolarEngineSolutions.com. Go there to find out more.